Thank you, John, for your introduction. So I want to basically jump right into this problem right away. And as you can see here, by far and away, the biggest cause of bird mortality in the United States is bird collisions with windows. It takes over cats, power lines, pesticides, hunting, vehicular collision, communication tower, and wind tunnels is a cause of mortality. And so now we think the next thing we need to do is to talk a little bit about the problems that birds have with glass. So what happens is you can either have birds can see their first is transparency of the glass. So the birds can see greenery on the other side of a glass. Let's say you're in a greenhouse or an atrium. They can think that they're safe to fly into it, and they hit the window. You could also have another one is reflectance of the glass. So the bird sees itself in the glass and perceives a threat and wants to attack, so it goes after it. Or the bird can see reflected greenery behind it and think it's safe to fly through. The third area, as you see here, is this fly-through. So the bird can think, okay, I can fly through like a breezeway, like you see in the photo below, and I can pass through the other side, but it can't. Fourth one is beacon effect, which is basically a lighted building at night. And so our job here today is to try to mitigate maybe the first three of these problems. Okay, so it's pretty hard to measure all of the environmental and economic aspects of the bird collision coatings, but we're going to try here. So you can see birds are controllers of crop and insect pests. They're pollinators of plants, and they're distributors of seeds. And if you think about economic aspects, it's basically people like to watch them. And so there's a bit, you can see all the money. Oops, sorry. You can see all the money spent, all the taxes generated, all the jobs, just from people wanting to watch birds and see them. So now there has to be a reason for people to want to put spots and stripes on glass, and the big reason really is legislation, right? So now we got a list of some of the North American communities that are enacting legislation. Some of these bird these acts and guidelines to help to prevent the bird collisions with glass. So that's kind of the driver. So now you say, okay, how is that going to get passed through to the glass community? And so what happens here is then you have architects. They're coming to the coating suppliers to the glass fabricators for options. How do I get a LEED credit? How do I get this green credits for my building? And so then the coating that you want to try to put up, it has to be tested, and they're done by testing in flight tunnel testing. And then after that, then you get the glass fabricator coming to the coating supplier for options. How can I coat my glass to make it bird safe? So now we have to talk a little bit about the technical target, and I have to describe this test a little bit. So what happens is birds are netted in the Avian Research Center, and they're just basically small songbirds. And then they band them, and they kind of take a look at them and make sure that they're not too stressed by being caught and inspected. And if they are, then they put them in a felt bag, and they take them to the back of the flight tunnel right in here. And what you want to do then is you want to set up in the flight tunnel a blank glass, which is denoted by the T, the transparent, and a coated glass by the K. And then you see also there's a safety net there. So then what you do is you put the bird in the back, and you let it go, and you let them choose a pane to fly at. And so what they want to do is what you're hoping that happens is that every time it will go for the blank glass, the transparent glass. They film this happening, and then they can score what happens. And so what you hope is, like you say, that you get at least 70% of the birds to fly at at the transparent one. So 50% is random behavior, it's not so great. If you get to an 80%, which is called an avoidance index, or AI, if you hear that term later, then that's given the rank of most preferred by the American Bird Conservancy. And then, so 70 is given the preferred rank. And one note is that it's recommended to install the bird-safe glazing 0 to 40 feet, 0 to 13 meters above the grade, basically the height of tall trees on the building. Okay, and so the research, especially by Daniel Clem Jr. at Muhlenberg College in Allentown, PA, has established that there's basically a 2x4 rule. What you want to do is you want to have horizontal features spaced 2 inches apart vertically. And you want to have vertical features spaced 4 inches wide, 10 centimeters apart in the horizontal direction. And if you're talking about hummingbirds, you know, they actually saying 2x2, because it basically the bird's got to say, I can't fit through this space when I'm flying, and that's why you want it. That's why they're probably trying to go for these feature rules. But we also note here that Canada is going to probably recommend the 2x2, the 5x5 centimeter rule for new buildings in 2020. Okay, so now that you've got a problem and you've got a test that you have to pass, we've got to find some solutions for that. And these solutions turn out to be this, we can do multi-layer coatings that are UV visible. There are traditional screen print in patterns, and there's also digital ceramic printing that we can do to solve this problem. So let's jump into the multi-layer coatings. And with these, what we're trying to do is to utilize a bird's ability to see in the UV, which is a little bit different than the vision that humans have. So if you take a look at this chart, on the top you see the human visible, how humans' vision works with the 3 types of cones that we have. The bottom one shows the 4th cone that the birds have that allows them to see in the UV light. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to use quarter wave stacking to try to see if we could make a coating that is visible to the birds, but theoretically invisible to humans. And so this is just kind of a description of the quarter wave stacking. You take basically an alternating layers of a relatively high refractive index coating and a low refractive index coating, and you stack them up on top of each other. And what you want to do is you basically want to have the depths of those films be about a quarter of the wavelength of the light you're trying to reflect. So here it's about 80 to 90 nanometers that we want to make. And so for our work, we chose to make screen print paste where we can set the level, set the depth of the film by the concentration of the metal oxide precursor that's in the paste, and also the print depth that we get by choosing the screen mesh. But one note is that each of these layers has to be printed, dried, and fired, because we need discrete boundaries between the layers, and so it's kind of an expensive process. So now we're going to get into the characterization of the coatings. So you can see we have a blank, a 3-layer coating, and a 5-layer coating here. And we've got about a 40% reflectance for the 3-layer coating and about a 55% reflectance for the 5-layer coating. So, and then you see the blanket has some reflectance, about 4 or 5% for normal glass. Okay, and so now what we wanted to do was wanted to try to figure out how we could visualize what a bird can see with that 4th cone in their eyes. So we purchased a camera that's optimized to record reflectance of UV light. And so on the if you see on the right side, or sorry, left side here, back, is conventional camera, you can see that there's sort of an orangish color to this coating, but you can still see through it. It's still transparent. And on the right-hand side, you see the UV image that we obtained. And now, to be fair, this one's against a black background. But so what you could probably imagine happening is that what the bird would see would be sort of a superposition of the orange stripe and the white stripe from the two things, because they've got that fourth cone in their eye. Okay, so this now you can just take a quick look at what the coating looks like if you pose it against an interior view. This is the the 3-layer coating on here, and this is the 5-layer coating there. And if you take and pose them outside, you see basically kind of a semi-mirror appearance, which is okay. You know, buildings, it's not unattractive. And so now I believe we get into some avoidance scores now for what happened. So the flight tunnel test shows that the 3-layer had received an 80% AI, so 80% of the birds deflected to the blank, which is a very good score, most preferred by the American Bird Conservancy, and the 5-layer coating got a 71%. So it's also usable for the LEED or the green credit. But as we said before, it's expensive. So now we have to start thinking about ways that we can other ways to solve this problem. And basically here is we're going to talk about the first surface coating for bird-safe glazing. So again, due to the intensive processing costs for the multi-layer coating, we had to look at other options. And so while these are human visible, they also require only one print dry fire cycle, so it makes them a little cutting the process costs down a little bit. And so it's also been found that the first surface coatings are the most effective at deterring the birds. This is another way, because you don't have that extra reflection behind attenuating the effect. And so these enamels, they kind of fit this requirement. And so they're good candidates to replace decals, stickers, and basically parachute cords. They call them Acopian blinds as deterrents for birds. Okay, and so what we wanted to do at the beginning, we wanted to test materials, and so we chose bold patterns to do it with. So we did experiments with 1-inch wide stripes, which 2.5 centimeter, and then we spaced them by 2 inches wide, 5 centimeters. And so this one, people said, "Oh, this kind of looks like you're in jail or something." So they kind of were making fun of me or whatever. They said, "Okay, let's get something that's a little less threatening, maybe." And so we decided to also look at arrays of dots, which is this half-inch or 1.25 centimeter in a 2-inch by 2-inch or 5 centimeter by centimeter array. And so we had one coating, our first surface etch, we printed in both. And then we picked 3 other colors of interest to the architecture community, a gray, a green, and a blue, and we printed those in the dot pattern only. So then you can kind of see how they look. This is our first surface blue. And then here is our first surface etch. This one is a green, sorry for the typo there. And then the last one here is a gray. So, and then just a comparison of the etch stripes and the etch dots. So now let's see how we fare on the. Oh, sorry. One other thing I forgot to mention. Before I get into the tunnel test score, we want to also introduce the digital ceramic printing. So this is a technique where you can have your computer image on the computer there, and you can also choose colors with it. And you can go off and print the coating that way. Print the coating. And so, anyway, so here's some of the characteristics of that. So the ink or the ceramic ink is fused to the glass after it's printed and dried. And then for this work, we put these randomly colored triangles on the glass in different colors and positions. And so one thing to note about this is that these enamels here are currently designed for the second surface and higher, but in the case of this bird tunnel test, it was tested on the first surface. So now we're going to go and take a look at the score, which you already got a sneak peek of in a minute ago there. And we can see that all of the coatings are usable for the lead credit. You got a 76 for the dots, but then 80s for the for the stripes, and 80 and above for all the dot patterns. So they're all most preferred. But then the shining star of it all was the digital ceramic print with this 92. So it's interesting to kind of think about why that could happen. And so I tried to think of some reasons why. You could think, okay, look, you got this UV image of the dots, and you can see kind of a different shades of UV reflectance, and then you also different colors. Basically, a good contrast between the sky and the cloud pattern behind it. So you're again firing all four cones of the bird's eyes and hoping that maybe they can see the coating better. All right. So, just basically the digital ceramics print is basically interesting because it can just give you a lot of flexibility. You can design design a logo in it or put art in it and make it more visually interesting. That's why we kind of want to promote the digital ceramic printing. But we do need to get it to the level where we've converted the colors to a first surface coating so they're weather durable. So here are some conclusions. We have the multi-layer first surface and digital ceramic print. They can all meet the American Bird Conservancy's standard for the effective bird deterrence. And so if any of these coatings were printed basically with the material and with the pattern, then they could use the bird safe logo for the glass. And so the coatings rely on a couple of features. They basically have to have the contrast between the glass and the coating and the pattern. Both are necessary for the bird to see it and to deflect from the glass. So, and then the digital flexibility will provide the creative solutions for this problem. And finally, that no birds were harmed in the process of this research because they had a safety net at the flight tunnel and they could bounce and fly away when they were being tested. So if we go on, and all this work couldn't have been possible without a lot of people helping. So we like to thank some of these groups: Chicago Bird Collision Monitor, FLAP Canada, and Bird Safe Pittsburgh. So these people are groups of people that go around buildings and look for dead birds, basically pick them up and count them, and take birds to injured birds to sanctuaries or where they can be rehabbed. So Laurier Glass in Quebec City, Canada, and they're thanked for the printing, drying, and tempering of the multi-layer coatings because they had to print, dry, fire 5 times on top of each other on the same piece of glass to build up the 5-layer coating. So it was nice work. Thank them a lot. Paragon Tempered Glass in Antwerp, Ohio, they're thanked for the screen printing and tempering of the first surface coatings. And our new colleagues in Diptech are thanked for submitting the digitally printed pane for testing. This testing was done at the Powdermill Avian Research Center in Rector, PA, on their flight tunnel testing. And we'd like to thank Dr. Christine Shepard. She is the collision manager of the American Bird Conservancy. And Dr. Daniel Clem Jr., he was basically the professor that did a lot of the work that led to all the rules about the patterns. And finally, we'd like to thank you for your attention.
Many thanks, Andy, for your presentation. Very interesting, and I know it's worldwide. It's a big, huge subject at the moment. I've attended a few seminars recently where it's been a real topic of discussion. Anybody here have any questions for Andy while we're here? Yes.
I have a question, because as far as I understood, you are comparing a transparent glass with a nature or a picture behind related to a glass which is treated, printed, whatever.
Right.
In the real condition in a building, you have a sun shading, you have louvers,
Right.
The glass is not transparent in the sense that you can see the nature or landscape or a tree. You see always the inside of the building. So if there is light on or there is a special curtain for a residential use, is there any testing or any research regarding these issues as well?
Yeah, so one of the Professor Clem, he's got a different program. When he tests the glass, he puts each paint or each coating has to be printed twice, because he puts a frame that's basically passed through, and then he's got another one where he puts a black background in it. And so then he puts a bird feeder in the middle, and then he puts all those stands around the edge of a field, right? So then the bird eats, and then it's going to fly back to cover. And so what he's watching for is, it can fly underneath, it can fly over, because it's basically up spaced above the ground. But he's trying to get a more realistic building type of approach to it, at least. But right, because you can hang parachute cord in front of the window and stop the birds. You can do it. The louvers itself can be a deterrent. So you're saying that's what you're probably asking is. It's the whole building that you do to it. It could be you could have metal mesh in front of it with that pattern. All these things can help. So it's not just. This is basically just saying, here's the glass, and does the bird see it? This was what it is. But everything, all those different techniques could help to keep them from flying into your window.
Anybody else have any more questions? No, in that case, Andy, thanks very much. Thanks for the presentation, and thank you all for being here.
Hi there. Did you like what you just saw? If you did, why don't you like the video, drop us a comment below, and share the video as well, since GPD is all about sharing. And to receive more videos in future, subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the bell icon. Ciao!